Welcome to The Week Ahead, a podcast by SBM Intelligence. I'm your host, Veronica Pana Igube. Every Friday, we explore stories that are shaping our continent. Ghana's central bank has slashed its interest rate by 300 base points from 28% to 25%, the biggest cut on record as inflation has dropped to 12.1%. This move is meant to boost economic growth, with more cuts likely if inflation stays within target. Can this rate cut spark growth without risking inflation? Ghana has raised the cocoa production price by 63% for the 2025-2026 season to Ghana cedis 3,228.75 per 64 kg bags. COCOBOD say the hike aligns with global prices and aims to support farmers amid rising production costs. What's this price? Will this price hike meaningfully improve farmer livelihood? Tensions are rising in Ghana and has reportedly asked undocumented Nigerians to leave the country. Authorities cite immigration violations and overstay, triggering concerns among affected communities. Nigerian government is engaging diplomatically to resolve the issue. Could this strain Ghana-Nigerian relationship or lead to a wider regional fallout? Joining us today for further insight is Kofi, our security SBM correspondent analyst in Ghana. Welcome, Kofi, to the podcast.
Hi, very nice to be here once again.
Thank you very much for having us. And before we begin, we want to take a moment to acknowledge a tragic loss that has shaken Ghana yesterday. The nation is in mourning and untimely passing of several government officials in a devastating accident that left a deep scar across the country. Our thoughts are with the families and the people of Ghana, and all those who are affected by this painful tragedy. As we reflect in this sober event, we also continue our commitment to highlight the important developments shaping our continent. Today, we begin with the story on the economic shift which we're experiencing in Ghana. So, Kofi, I'd like us to start with as Ghana has do you think that the most aggressive rate cut, do you think that this is the most aggressive rate cut on record in Ghana? What factors gave the central bank enough confidence to make this bold move? And with inflation still it's a record 12.1%. Is there a risk that this cutting it too quickly? Could they reverse it or just kind of give me what's happening in Ghana? Like, just that our listeners would also like to know how the rates or how it has also if affected economic growth in the country, or what are we experiencing? We'd like to know.
Well, there is a lot happening in Ghana, and on the economic front, I would say positive things happening to Ghana, where prior to the announcement of this 300 basis points rate cut, which is almost unprecedented, you could actually have the feeling or the sense that the Monetary Policy Committee and the government of Ghana are very confident in the economic gains in the local space, where since the beginning of the year, the Ghana cedi at a point was the best performing currency in the world against the dollar. And since the beginning of the year has appreciated by more than 50% against the US greenback. On the inflation front, remember we were as high as 54% inflation in December of 2022. Now we are talking about 12.1% as of July 2025. And so massive drop and in fact, those are some of the clear positive indicators that led to the Bank of Ghana slashing the monetary policy rate by that 300 basis points. The whole idea is to reduce the cost of borrowing and then also ease the economic tensions that the country actually is currently in. And in fact, if you move around Ghana, there is that wave of reduced prices, and that campaign and that chorus being sung by almost all the big marts and malls where, because of the appreciation that the cedi has witnessed against the dollar, you see big shops now running promos to reduce their prices, and it's a good time to be in Ghana. And in fact, some of these gains are very reflective. I mean, you can actually feel it in real terms. Where if you go to the fuel pumps, for instance, fuel prices have dropped. And in the first 6 months of the year, transport fares went down by 15%. And so these positive economic indicators do not just exist on paper, but in real terms, you can actually feel it. The only negative, what is still negative is that it's still very expensive to prepare standard jollof in Ghana, where you need about close about 42 or 40 dollars to prepare jollof for a family of five. Yeah, but I mean things are in the right direction. And for the Bank of Ghana, this is the reason why they were so confident that the current gains in the local space could withstand external shocks amid the US tariffs and all of that. They still believe that the current gains in the local space can actually withstand any form of external shock in the next quarters.
I mean, it's interesting to learn about the economic growth that Ghana is currently experiencing. Do you think that that's also a link with the new government that came in, the John Mahama government, the strategies that his team and the administration is also putting forward? And are the people responding? How are they responding? Are they excited about what's happening in the country? Or do they feel like the government needs to do more as well?
Well, I mean, it's a cocktail of factors. We shouldn't forget that Ghana has been under an IMF program since 2023. And the essence of an IMF program is to improve some of these economic indicators that we've spoken about. But you can have the IMF gains there, all right. But you can't also discount the fact that the current government have a very good will from the people of Ghana, where the President Mahama has the backing of the people, and some of the policies that they've actually introduced in the first half of the year have actually started bearing fruit. So there is a policy called the Gold Board Initiative, where Ghana is aiming to buy gold locally from small-scale miners and export this to actually get foreign exchange directly. And they are targeting, according to the government, if they're able to do this right, they can get about $12 billion every year from the exportation of gold from the small scale sector. And when you have this quantum of dollars flowing into the economy, then you'll be able to meet demand, because this is a country that its import bill exceeds, or on average, around $13 billion every year. And so once you're able to get this huge amount of money from the gold board, which acts like COCOBOD, that buys gold locally in seed, you have the pass-through effect of exchange rates in inflation calculation also being reduced. And so I would say that goodwill from the people of Ghana, and that is really helping the new administration currently, and they are actually enjoying that goodwill. But just like Oliver Twist, there's always Ghanaians will always ask for more. And in fact, that tragic news that happened yesterday to us, well, will go ahead to deepen the goodwill that the people have for the current administration, because the president has declared a 3 days of mourning and all of that. So that's going to add up to the layer of goodwill. But definitely some of the policies that the government has decided to put in place is beginning to bear fruit. So you have another policy like the 24-hour economy, which is going to focus on growing things domestically to actually reduce the import bill and all of that. So, I mean, so far it's been good. But I mean, you never know what will happen in the next quarter because you see external factors still not very stable. Trump, the US just slapped on Ghana 15% tariff, and there are visa issues and all of that. But currently, what I would say is that the improvement in the local currency, inflation coming down, fuel prices dropping at the pumps, transport fares going down, all of these things are actually giving the government some sort of goodwill in the eyes of the people.
I mean, it's good to learn that. I mean, it's not only like in numbers, but you can see it affecting the people, the growth, the economic growth. Let's move on to our next story where we have cocoa production price is being increased. So Ghana has increased the cocoa production price by 63%. How significant do you think this increase is for the average cocoa farmer, especially in terms of purchasing power and debt relief? And do you think that this price hike helps reduce rural poverty or just basically attracting younger people into cocoa farming?
Well, I mean, it's clear that globally, Ghana and Ivory Coast supply about 60% of the beans that the world consumes. But over the years, both countries have struggled with Ivory Coast struggling with diseases and weather conditions. But in Ghana's situation, it's a bit peculiar where we have illegal mining activities where farmlands, cocoa farmlands are being sold and then they are being turned into illegal mining sites. And since the last 3 seasons, we've not been able to meet our, production targets and all of that. And so, one way that government uses to stop smuggling, and then also to actually get people into cocoa production is a farm gate price, or what we call here in Ghana the producer price. But this year, something happened in terms of the price announcements where on the global scale, on the free on board price that was announced by government, they quoted an increase of 63%. But if you do the math, the price per bag that the farmer, gets if they sell 64 kg of cocoa beans, it just went up by some $12, right? And so that was significantly, it was woefully inadequate. And if almost all Ghanaians are happy with the current administration, I'm so certain that there's a group of cocoa farmers who are not happy with the current price adjustments, who are saying that they were expecting at least about $400 per bag and not $328 per every bag. And so you can actually see that farmers are not so happy with the current price adjustment, especially because the previous administration had done increases which were, very, very high. So you announce a 63%. It's not just on the FOB price, but also it reflects in the farm gate price as well. So farmers have actually developed a strong taste for high price adjustment because of what the previous administration did when they were not getting the cocoa beans and they had to entice farmers with high prices to go into production. And so they were expecting that same trend to follow. But in real terms, the farmer just got a 4.1% increase in every bag that they sell, and they are definitely not happy with this. And the projection is that if government does not do anything about this, it could cause smuggling this year to go up as high as 200. We could lose about 200 metric tons of cocoa to smuggling or to the black market, and that could affect Ghana's production numbers. And already we know what is going on in Ivory Coast, where the bad weather conditions is not helping the country to meet its production numbers this year, and possibly in the season that will start somewhere in September. And so, if these two countries, where one is facing smuggling issues coupled with illegal mining, where illegal miners are taking over cocoa farms. And Ivory Coast also not getting the numbers you project that this is going to affect gold prices. We probably might see another price, hike like we did in the last season when prices went as high as 10,000 or $11,000 per every ton of cocoa that was sold on the global market.
Interesting. Hopefully, they are able to address the issues and resolve it with the farmers in order to prevent smuggling. On to our final story, where there's a tensions rising in Ghana, and this has reportedly been between undocumented Nigerians. There's been a large call for undocumented Nigerians to exit. How widespread is this directive, and what's the government's official position on this? But also, it will be interesting to know from someone who is in Ghana, why is this? Why do we think this is happening? What's going on? I mean, the actual picture of the call for Nigerians, undocumented Nigerians to exit the country.
Well, Ghana and Nigeria will forever remain brothers, especially looking at it on this perspective where the current president, John Dramani Mahama, was actually raised in Nigeria when we had a coup somewhere in the 90s where his father had to send him to Nigeria to his stepmother to be raised. And so you see that kind of relationship between Ghana and Nigeria, and trade, both formal and informal, between these two countries are now inching close to about $800 million every year or annually. And so the two countries will continue to do business and will continue to engage, especially when you can't actually pick three big economies in West Africa without Ghana and Nigeria. But definitely, there are fault lines that's actually, resulting in some of this. In fact, I don't want to use the word xenophobic or whatever, but what I'm saying is that what is happening in Ghana, I see it to be, sort of like a proxy, tribal conflict where the original destination or origin is in Nigeria, where you have that sort of tribal war between the Yorubas and then also the Igbos and all of that. That same thing is finding its way to Ghana, where Ghanaians don't have problems with Nigerians living in Ghana. But per what we are learning, the only problem is that there are a section of Nigerians who also don't like the fact that you have more Igbos in Ghana, because Nigerians who are in Ghana are mostly in the informal sector, right? And most of them, a significant component of them are Igbos, right? And so you have that same sentiment in Nigeria finding its way here in Ghana. So a lot of the stories you heard around Ghanaians wanting to say Nigeria must go and all of that were actually filled with fake news and painted with misinformation, where there's in the last 2 years we've not seen any significant campaign of Nigerians must go in Ghana, but all being pushed through the lenses of misinformation and using old videos into 2019 to actually paint a picture of what should be happening currently. And so that is the problem, where what is happening in Nigeria in terms of the tribal tensions in Nigeria finding its way into Ghana. For instance, there were problems with a video that was circulating in Ghana where the tribal leader of the Igbos in Ghana wanted to establish an Igbo kingdom here in Ghana around the border towns of Aflahu. And that actually sparked a lot of controversies. But per our checks, we realized that was an old video as far back as 2013. So the question is, who is fueling all of this? So the fault lines that exist in Nigeria are actually finding its way into Ghana. But what makes this a bit, different is that this is Ghana finds itself in a situation where almost all the countries around it are facing significant levels of tensions. Where if you go to Burkina Faso, you have Burkina being ruled by a military leader. If you go to Togo, there are tensions there. If you go to Ivory Coast, they will have an election in October, tensions where opposition leaders are being removed and all of that. And so if you add another layer of maybe let's say a foreign issue, it makes every Ghanaian worried. But one thing that is so clear is that there are Ghanaian traders who believe that Nigerians are taking their jobs, and especially because there are legislations to back that foreigners cannot go into retail business and petty trading. But you find most of foreigners who are in West Africa who find their way to Ghana, venturing into petty trading and retailing, and that is what Ghanaians are worried about. But per our checks, we've not seen any significant protest in Ghana that says Nigerians must go. It's actually painted with a brush of misinformation and also I would say fake news where old videos from 2019 are being used to depict what should be happening. But one thing that we can state for sure is that there have been talks between Ghanaian authorities and the Nigerian authorities, and according to the president, Nigerians do not have anything to worry about. There's still that coordination between the two countries, and nothing of that sort in terms of that magnitude where that is being, showcased on social media and all of that. Nothing of that sort really happened in Ghana on that magnitude. But I can also say that we have a section of Ghanaians who are not happy with the fact that foreigners, I won't say Nigerians, but foreigners are venturing into the retail business in the country.
Thank you very much for making that clarification as well, and just highlighting the point of the role that misinformation and fake news plays. Has the government taken any steps? I know you said they're having the conversation with the Nigerian government as well, but have they taken steps to address that misinformation as well? And you also stated like there are certain Ghanaians who are in kind of like not happy that some Nigerians are going into the retail. So what can the government do, or what are they even doing if they have started to kind of address the issue and ensure that the side that it's not happy is kind of like happy? What solutions do you think they can also adopt to be able to address this issue and resolve it as well?
Well, I think the president himself has spoken, and that should be fine now. He says that, look, you don't have to worry about anything. He's met Nigerian authorities, the ambassadors who actually met him in Ghana and all of that. So the president has spoken and has clarified this and has said that nothing of that sort happened. We are still two brothers. We still have a very cordial relationship. And in terms of how do we find solution to some of these things. I think that first thing first is the misinformation element where I don't know how we can solve it, but I think that what is happening in Nigeria isn't only staying in Nigeria where um, I don't have much information about it, but I know that there are tribal tensions and especially involving the Igbos and all of that. And that is really unfortunate that what is happening in Nigeria is finding its way onto social media and finding its way also in Ghana, where there are Nigerians, there are Nigerians who are not Igbos who want Igbos to leave Ghana and are pushing that agenda, right? And that's so unfortunate. On the side of the retail business, I think that the authorities are putting plans in place. If I look, there are still structural issues where law enforcement is so difficult to the extent that, in Africa, we all know how law enforcement works. But that is why the government of Ghana started the introduction of the Ghana card, where identification is becoming so important, where If you don't have the Ghana card, you can't register your SIM. If you don't have the Ghana card, you can't get access to banking service. If you don't have your Ghana card, you can't be on the national health insurance. If you don't have a Ghana card, you can't be identified on the tax structure of the country. You can't have a tax identification number and all of that. So all of these things have started and they are actually in place, especially the Ghana card. So it's not just Ghana card for citizens, but we also have Ghana card for foreign nationals. It helps in the identification. So once we are able to move on to that tangent of settling the identification side, which we are almost done, or which Ghana is almost done, it becomes easy to know who is a foreigner and who is an indigent and who is expected to go into a certain kind of business. It will make law enforcement a bit easier than the previous system where all play all and there was that difficulty in identifying who comes from where. But what we also understand is that there are a number of foreign nationals who are choosing to naturalize for Ghana. And that's also some sort of good news because when it happens like that, you begin to pay taxes in the right way and all of that. So that level of identification, the Ghana card, is helping Ghana to filter out some of these things and also provide solutions to some of this problem. But I would say that the fault lines that exist in Nigeria isn't only staying in Nigeria, it is finding its way into other countries, not just Ghana, but different parts of the world as well. And it's unfortunate that, I mean, if you select 10 people in West Africa, there's high probability that 6 or 5 of them will be Nigerians. And so Nigerians will continue to dominate in terms of shared numbers, in terms of economy and all of that. So it is expected that you have Nigerians in almost every part of West Africa or the world or maybe Africa, right? And so until we get to a point where, I mean, it becomes so difficult to maybe live with a section of foreign nationals, I won't say Nigerians. I think that Ghana still has this thing controlled and are using the identification process or identification means to actually filter out I mean, people who are not, or foreign nationals who are not willing to comply with Ghanaian rules and regulations.
Thank you so much, Kofi, for joining us on today's episode.
It's always a pleasure to be here.
And to our listeners, this podcast is by SBM Intelligence. You can access our podcast by searching for SBM Intelligence anywhere you find podcasts. For deeper insights into our work, you can visit our website at sbmintel.com. Remember to connect with us on all our social media platforms. You can find us on X, Facebook, LinkedIn, Blue Sky at SBM Intelligence. That's all for today, and thank you for listening. Until next week.